Right now, Bitcoin is potentially forming a quite bearish pattern, and I want to break it down for you right now to give you guys my full thoughts on it, because as usual, this stuff is very nuanced. It's not as simple as up or down, so I want to break down everything that I'm seeing for you here and explore the probabilities. And really what this boils down to is the range that Bitcoin is in at the moment. I know that, very conventional technical analysts will be saying that this is actually quite a bad thing, and it definitely could be, but really what we're doing right now is trading in a sideways range that looks a little bit like this. And Bitcoin has formed a number of these patterns recently, right? Here's another example of a range that looked a little bit like this. Here's another example of a range that looked a little bit like this. And what's important to note about these ranges, right, is that generally they are going to be continuation patterns. Really, all we're doing, for example, over here, is we're trending up, forming continuation patterns, which in this case was a small rejection off our resistance line, which we were talking about on the YouTube channel. So those of you who were subscribed will have known all about that and how we expected many things throughout this move. Definitely were very accurate with our predictions on this YouTube channel. So thank you guys for your support, hitting up the like, subscribing. I love you all very much. We get these little continuation patterns and then we continue the trend up. Another continuation pattern right here and another big one right here. This is where I think it's really interesting, right? Because Bitcoin manages to move up by quite a large amount. I mean, from this price level, if we just measure it real quick up to this high, it's a 12% move in, about 8 hours. So quite a short space of time, 8-9 hours. But then Bitcoin totally trades sideways in a very narrow range for the next 2 days. And this is very interesting because what we're doing here is we're managing to get a move to the upside. And as we're trading in resistance, the trend is correcting. It's cooling off, right? So generally, when we have any trend, whether it's aggressive or not, what we're going to see is that we're going to move up if it's an uptrend, and then we need to correct that trend in some way. Whether that means that we slowly trade downwards and then we move up again, or whether that means we form a bull flag that looks a little bit like this, with the kind of triangle that we can draw, and then we explode upwards. Or if we just trade literally dead sideways, all we're doing here is we're correcting the trend, where previously there was a lot of excitement, a lot of momentum. Now we're just cooling off. The price isn't doing anything. Time is obviously moving at a constant pace, so the market prints a sideways trading channel, and then bam, we manage to blast off and continue the trend higher. That's generally how these patterns work, and that's why this one is potentially concerning, because ever since this high right here, Bitcoin entered a mini downtrend, a very short-term downtrend, where it ended up rallying from about $45,500 down to a low of 42.6, and then formed its first continuation pattern where it was trending down. It had a correction where we were fighting that trend briefly, and then we continued moving down right here, and we're in another one of these patterns right now. Now here's the thing that makes it not so bad in my opinion, right? And the thing is that these are generally quite extreme. I'm going to tell you why in just a minute, so stick around for that. But the reason that this isn't so bad in my opinion is that if this is going to be a potential bearish continuation pattern before we end up dropping again, the good news is that we're in a support level right now. If we look at this on the 4-hour time frame, those of you who have been watching this channel regularly are going to know that I am very confident in this range providing support for Bitcoin. There's one small problem with it, which again I'll tell you about in just a minute. It's the same point I was about to bring up, but for the most part we have really good support in this range. This range between 40k and 42k is, in my opinion, one of the best support ranges Bitcoin has in this entire trend, right? Again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I've said it so many times in this YouTube channel, but this range has triggered massive reversals in the trend previously, whether they were bearish like these three over here or bullish like these two right here. This range generally results in really nice reversals for the market, and because we managed to blast through it pretty easily, I'm actually pretty optimistic that Bitcoin is going to be able to do something quite similar again. And actually, I think we're already seeing some signs of that. If we look at this on a more zoomed out perspective, which is what we're doing right now, one of the things you can actually do with candles, and a lot of people will learn this as they begin learning about technical analysis, but if you want to learn all of this stuff from A to Z exactly the way I do it and the way I know it, jump inside of 𝗪𝗪𝗡 VIP by following these steps on the screen right now. When you join VIP, most people that join, depending on the plan you take, of course, will be getting free access into our 𝗪𝗪𝗡 Academy courses, where I'll teach you all about these things. But just very quickly, what we have right here is a little bit of candlestick analysis that we can conduct, right? So let's talk about this real quick. What we have right here in this range is Bitcoin actually showing us some quite aggressive candles moving to the upside, but you can see pretty clearly that as Bitcoin approaches this high that it sets on the daily time frame, our daily candles become a lot less aggressive. Let's put this into numbers, right? So if we look at this, we go from 37.3 up to 41.5. That's an 11% move. Pretty fantastic. Here, we go up by 2%. Still a nice daily candle. Here, we go up by 3.3%. Phenomenal daily candle. But here, Bitcoin manages to only rise by 0.3%. And here, Bitcoin manages to rise up by only 0.5%. It's a big shift in momentum, where previously the market was moving up really quickly and we're gradually getting slower after we end up reaching the 40K range, until eventually the price barely even nudges up in percentage points, and then we start seeing a reversal. This is a very typical way that markets reverse, is initially they're moving up with a lot of aggression, then they slow down, then they reverse. Very, very common pattern. And we're doing the same thing in reverse right now, where previously our first 2 daily candles trending down were quite strong. Again, if we measure these, let's take a look at this. We end up dropping here by 2%. Over here, we end up dropping by 2.2%. Right now, I mean, we can't even really measure the size of these candles. They're so small, but let's take a look. 0.3%. And so far today, this candle hasn't closed yet, but it will in about 4 hours, 0.2%. These candles are getting smaller. So to me, they are indicating that actually, whereas previously, just over the past few days, selling pressure was probably a little bit higher. Right now, I don't think it's so much, I don't think it's so high. Here's the thing though, here's the catch. What makes this tricky, what makes this potentially dangerous, is that these ranges, especially recently, have resulted in quite large breakouts, right? Take a look at this. Take a look at this right here. If we zoom in onto the 1 hour time frame and ignore all the yellow in the background, I don't want to remove this, but hopefully it's not too annoying for you guys. If we draw a box to represent this range, and another box to represent this range, and another box to represent this range, we can start to talk about what might end up happening next. From this range, from the high down to the low, Bitcoin manages to drop by about 6.4%. Now, this should have been a bullish continuation pattern, but we found resistance in this range, which is actually what I was anticipating before we hit it. At this point, because we got this consolidation, I was actually expecting Bitcoin to move up. This was one of the only incorrect predictions I made in this trend so far. And again, those of you who have been subscribed will know all about that. We ended up getting a pretty nice 6.4% drop down to confirm support, which is where we were expecting it to be. But from there, look at this. We managed to enter another sideways trading range. And when we broke out of this sideways trading range, Bitcoin actually shot up by 9 or 10%, depending on where you measure it. So this was quite a large breakout. This is important to note because when Bitcoin is trading sideways like this, it can produce some pretty substantial moves, whether it breaks to the downside or to the upside. 6.4% down, 9 or 10% up, fairly substantial. So if we take a look, and I've actually already drawn a chart for this to show you where Bitcoin can go if it pumps up or down by about, pumps or dumps by about 8%. The reason I took 8% is that number is just kind of in the middle. Take a look at where this potentially puts Bitcoin. Let me hide my camera so you can see this. This potentially puts Bitcoin, if it rises up by 8.3%, up at the 46.2K resistance area, which is pretty much where Bitcoin topped out already, and it's where we were finding a lot of support recently in this downtrend. So this area could turn out to be problematic for Bitcoin again, and it was already problematic, so that comes as no surprise. And if we end up dropping by a similar percentage move to the downside, it actually puts us in our picture perfect support zone at 38.6. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with this range. I don't necessarily think that we are dropping down that low. I certainly think it's possible that Bitcoin is going to continue trading downwards because this is a very typical continuation pattern, even though they don't necessarily have to work in that way. It just generally means that we're coiling up for a big move. Whether or not that move happens to follow the trend isn't really the point, although generally they do. And that's the thing, is because they generally do, I would expect that we potentially take another leg down, but again, only into this support zone, right? I don't think that we're going to be collapsing below this zone. However, it's important to note that if we do, there is phenomenal support down here. Bitcoin found some pretty consistent predictable resistance and even support in this range. If we take a look at the kind of resistance Bitcoin is finding from high to low, that's an 8.6% drop right here, 5% drop right here, 7% drop from high to low. And not only did this happen, 3 times, it was also relatively spaced out. The first time to the second time, it was 3 days apart. The second time to the third time, it was 2 days apart. This might not sound like a large amount of time to be using this area as resistance, but what I want you to take note of is that because we just came out of an area of very high volatility, or actually more accurately, we had just entered an area of high volatility, right? I mean, like, compare this to the price action we saw before. The price was barely moving, right? I mean, it was literally, most of the price action happened within, like a 5% range across 2 fucking weeks. Like, it was barely any price action that took place at all. Because we entered an area of higher volatility, even though this happened relatively quickly, to me, it's still significant, right? If we did this in an area where the market wasn't actually trending, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. But the fact that Bitcoin did this at a time where everyone's eyes are on the market, that to me makes this far more special. So anyway, this area could turn out to be very nice support for Bitcoin if we drop down to it, in my opinion. But like I said, I'm not necessarily expecting that. Again, on the daily time frame right here, if we take a look at where momentum is with this trend at the moment, take a look at this. We have some very, very nice support for Bitcoin, stretching all the way down to about 41.3. We can certainly drop below this and I think still be able to enjoy support in this range just because of the horizontal support in this range already. But what I really like about this is that we have something beautiful called confluence. Those of you who've been around on this channel for a while will know all about what this means. But really what this is that we have separate, unrelated indicators and tools showing us that we have support in the same place. And to me, that builds a very compelling argument. Take a look at this. You see, we have this 1-day EMA ribbon, which is amazing. We also have the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud, which is very nice indeed as well, potentially offering Bitcoin a little bit of support in this range. And then on top of all of that, we have my own pre-existing analysis with the green box. How I've shown you we've triggered a lot of major reversals. That's a lot of things in Bitcoin's favor at this point. Do I still think eventually Bitcoin's going to have to drop back down into the 30K range? I do, unfortunately, because we formed this rally off a prior swing, off a new swing low, and more importantly, it's been quite an explosive reaction to quite a disgusting downtrend, right? So I think that we're not even doing anything particularly impressive, even though Bitcoin managed to hit 45K. And I still think that it's very much on the cards that we end up dipping down eventually. But short term, and whether that means right now or, we hit resistance again and then we drop down, I don't know. I don't have a bloody crystal ball. But short term, I am seeing a lot of really, really nice support here, even if we end up dropping a little bit lower. You see, the only problem that Bitcoin is going to be facing is that if it does form that 8% drop to the downside that I had drawn in this chart, and then it tries to rise back up again, we're going to have to encounter this area as resistance, and that could be very, very problematic for Bitcoin. So it's definitely facing a potentially quite scary challenge. Alts are also getting hammered again, exactly as expected. Guys, I hope you aren't surprised by this at this point. If you've been following this channel regularly, you'll know I was warning you guys about alts getting destroyed for a very, very long time. So please, I don't even know what I can say at this point. I just hope that you heeded my warnings before. Ethereum continuing to fall off a cliff right here, dipping way lower, basically losing strength against Bitcoin. And it's not just Ethereum, right? Cardano, look at Cardano setting new lows for its recent trend right here. Previously it bottomed out at 2,500 Satoshis. I know you can't see the price, but it's at 2,500. Now it was at 2,500 on this low. Now it's at about 2473, right? So it's just continuing to move lower and lower, showing us that alts are continuing to get hammered, right? Solana, this is the thing, is if we look at Bitcoin's change right here, it's dropped by about 0.14%, but we look at the altcoins, Phantom's dropped by 1.8%, Cardano by 2.6%, Solana by 3%, Link by 1.4%. Across the market, ladies and gents, altcoins are losing value faster than Bitcoin, and this happens in bear markets. This is more proof that we're still in a bear market. Look at dominance shooting up since the beginning of this year, whereas at the beginning of this year dominance was as low as 39.38. Today we're at 43.4. Now I know that might not sound like a big difference, but this is a 10% increase in dominance in a market which is worth, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like trillions of dollars now, right? Like let me actually check this out by typing in market cap. Crypto total market cap. Yeah, it's at $1.83 trillion. So a 10% swing in that is a bloody big deal. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars moving around, just sloshing around from side to side. And again, like these moves are going to happen. And if you're caught in the middle of it because you just want to hold on to your shitcoin bags, cool, good for you. You're going to be fucking broke. You need to take these things seriously. This is why I preach what I preach inside of 𝗪𝗡𝗡s VIP. This is why I take the actions that I take inside of 𝗪𝗡𝗡s VIP, and the reason that I preach what I preach right here as well on the YouTube channel. This is all very, very powerful stuff, and being able to protect yourself from these winters is absolutely essential, because it doesn't matter how much money you make when the markets are doing well. If you're now sitting at break even or at a loss or whatever the case may be, then all of your excitement, all of your fear has been worth nothing. You've literally gone through an emotional roller coaster. You've potentially even lost money, and you've come out with it. You've come out of it with potentially less than what you even started with. You've just wasted your time. You know, who's the fool at times like this? It's a bad place to be. And that's why I take it very seriously with these approaches to, you know, look, like I said, I got no problem with dabbling in altcoins. I do it myself, but I do it in moderation, and I know when to scale out of these positions because I want to make sure that I keep my Bitcoin holdings large. See, when things are bad, Bitcoin is going to get sold off, and altcoins are going to get sold off even harder. Unfortunately, that is happening right now. So hopefully you guys haven't really been caught up in that, but did want to bring that to your attention. Dollar is just kind of ranging, doing nothing, but it could have a clear shot up to that resistance area at about 97, 98 that I had spoken to you guys about a little while back. 𝗪𝗘𝗪𝗘 actually made some really good analysis on this, so go check that out on his YouTube channel. I think it was his video that was published yesterday or 2 days ago. I might actually talk about that analysis because I wanted to incorporate it into one of these YouTube videos, so definitely check him out. If you like my content, you're going to like his content even more, because in my opinion, he is a better analyst than I am, so well worth checking out. And yeah, just our best friend here, Shiba, still down in the shitter. I remember when the trolls came out and were telling me, look, Sammy, Shiba pumped up massively again, forgetting that the all-time high was literally like 2.5 times higher than where we are right now, which is atrocious. It's absolutely horrific. It has to pull off like a 300% gain just to get back up to its all-time high, but the shitcoin holders were getting happy, which was another sign that we might be ready to top out, at least temporarily. If we take a look at the fear and greed index, we're kind of stable in, you know, relatively, you know, I'd say closer to neutral, slightly fearful territory right now with this market. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm basically just having to wait for this sideways range to be broken. There's a nice bit of resistance up ahead if we do manage to break it to the upside, but I think a breakout to the downside is more likely, just because that's the current trend. But I don't expect us to penetrate this box too deep. You know, 41k, 40k at most. I don't really think we're getting below that level. Just for your reference, by the way, the last time we tackled this area as support, we did actually drop out of this box briefly, but not by very much, only by a few $100s. And then on this occasion right here, we again dropped out of this box, but not by much, only a few $100s, and then recovered right back up. So I'd potentially be seeing something similar in a worst case, you know, just kind of moving a little bit like this, and then managing to, yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't pump all the way up, maybe it just kind of comes back into this range, and then we can evaluate the next potential move for Bitcoin. But for now, that's what I'm seeing, and there you go. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you want some free cash and you want to trade on the same exchange that I'm using, Bybit is on screen, and you can sign up to it, get some free cash deposited into your account as a thank you for using my link in the description down below. All you got to do is make your first deposit when you sign up. You might need a VPN depending on where you are, and of course, I can't comment on that, but I know many people that do it. If you want to jump into VIP, again, these are the steps on screen. Click on the first link in the description down below, then the @4flies button at the bottom of any post inside of 4flies Gold, and then send message to ask me how to join 4flies VIP. These 3 very quick steps require no downloads or signups, so it's very, very quick to get in. It's not painful or anything like that. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side if you're interested in that stuff. If you want to learn about trading from A to Z, 4flies Academy courses, like I said, most people get in them for free depending on which plan they select. But with that, ladies and gents, I hope you have enjoyed this video. You know what to do. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.